All right, let's talk about endpoint security. And I want to start with a statistic that might be surprising. About 70% of security incidents, they originate at endpoints. And by endpoints, we're talking about things such as laptops, desktops, smartphones, tablets, the devices that your users interact with every day. Now, on top of that, add the complexity of BYOD, bring your own device, and remote workers connecting from who knows where, and we can start to see why endpoint security is so crucial. And for years, we've relied on traditional antivirus software. Security vendors would maintain a database of known malware signatures and virus signatures, and the antivirus software, it would scan the files against the database. If there was a match, it's going to block the file. But here's the problem. That whole process is inherently reactive. We're only able to detect what we already know about. Next generation endpoint security, instead of just comparing signatures, it watches and observes behavior. It continuously monitors what files are doing, what processes are being spawned, what network connections are being made, and it can use that behavioral analysis to detect threats even if they've never been seen before. And Cisco's flagship endpoint security solution is Cisco Secure Endpoint. And you might see that referred to by its former name on the exam and an older documentation. It was called AMP for endpoints, where AMP stood for Advanced Malware Protection. Same product, just a new name. And Secure Endpoint, it gives us three core capabilities: prevention, detection, and response. Prevention includes blocking known malware using signatures and reputation. And yes, signatures do still have value for known threats. And prevention also involves exploit prevention that stops attacks that target vulnerabilities in applications. Detection, that's where the magic happens. Secure Endpoint, it continuously monitors all file activity on the endpoint. It's watching what files are executed, what child processes are getting spawned, what network connections are being made, and it uses behavioral indicators of compromise, or IOCs, which can identify suspicious activity even for malware that's never been seen before. And response, it's all about what happens when something bad is detected. Secure Endpoint, it can automatically isolate a compromised host from the network, it can quarantine malicious files, and it can give us forensic data to help us better understand what happened. And this is where Cisco Secure Endpoint really shines. It does retrospective security and trajectory. Retrospective security means that Secure Endpoint, it doesn't just make a one-time decision about a file. It's going to continue to analyze files even if the files have already been allowed onto a system. And if new threat intelligence from Talos determines that a file that you did allow yesterday is actually malware, well, Secure Endpoint, it's going to retroactively alert you, and it can automatically quarantine the file across your entire environment. Now, trajectory comes in two different flavors. File trajectory answers the question, where has my file been? It can track a specific file across endpoints in our organization that had that file, and this also helps us understand the scope of the outbreak, how many systems were affected, who is patient zero. And device trajectory answers a different question, and that question is, what happened on this specific endpoint? It gives us a timeline of all file activity, process executions, and network connections on a single device. And let me also mention Cisco Secure Client. This is the rebranded AnyConnect. It's now a unified agent, and it can deliver multiple security modules like VPN, DNS security from Secure Access, and endpoint protection. It's Cisco's single agent strategy for endpoint security. And you'll also hear two acronyms in the endpoint security space, EPP and EDR. First, let's consider EPP. That stands for Endpoint Protection Platform. This is your traditional prevention-focused solution. Antivirus signatures, exploit blocking, application control. It's about stopping threats before they execute. And EDR, that stands for Endpoint Detection and Response. This is going to go beyond prevention to include continuous monitoring, threat hunting capabilities, forensic investigation, and response actions. And EDR assumes that some threats will get through prevention, and it's going to focus on detecting them and then quickly responding. The good news is we don't have to choose, because Cisco Secure Endpoint, it combines both EPP and EDR capabilities into a single solution.